Okay, we are live. Yep, you're up.
Holy moly, let me just read people.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Yeah, the audio is the easy part. So glad so many people came inside. We got through yesterday, which was a rain day, so I figured everyone was driving down to Lambertville today. So really good to see that you're here. My name's Bob Foster. I work with the Hoboken Historical Museum. A lot of new faces, which is good. I will say that of all the topics that people ask about when they come into the museum is how do I find out about my house? So we're so lucky to have James here today. James Cox is the Special Collections Manager at the Hoboken Public Library. The library has sort of been, I'll say, kicking butt these days. I mean, it's really come into the 21st century in the last few years, I would say. People are always concerned, when will the library change? So I think it is changing. And one of the reasons it's changing is because of the director, Jenny Fu. But I would say she's done some great jobs, a great job hiring good people who know their stuff. And James Cox is that person. He is available in the library, very accessible. So if you aren't taking all the notes you need to take today and you want to make a trip up to the library, he's available. So I hope you do that. So I also want to thank Evan Pop George, who is our tech guy today, and also saving my butt. And so that's good. And but without further ado, let's welcome James Cox.
Hey everybody, I'm James Cox. I've never tried to teach a group of people how to research properties, so it's something to get everyone excited. Experiment to see how this works. So, in the way of introductions, prior to becoming a librarian, I was an archaeologist. And I worked in the field of cultural resource management. That's basically where people go out and test before they go to roads or other infrastructure and things like that. And through doing that kind of work, I was exposed to property research. And then after that, I worked for a specific company for a number of years. And then after that, I worked on writing national registry nominations with the architectural story for a number of years. And so that sort of formed my research skills, I guess you would say. But anyway, now, so this is our agenda. We're going to talk about civil history first. Before we do anything else, we need to know about where we are, basically. We'll talk about organizing your information, and then we're going to work from known to unknown things. So the easiest thing to find in some ways is maps. That's where I started doing my research. We're going to move on to deeds, to newspapers, work with ancestry, which is inclusive of census information and city directories. We'll talk about the HPO, which is the Historic Preservation Office, and the National Register, and then we'll come back to organization and your information. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So, I said we're going to talk about civil history first, but actually the introduction is, so the special collections consists of four separate collections. The Hoboken collection, the Sinatra collection, the Attic collection, and the Hoboken collection. So everything I'm going to talk about today is related to the historical collection. And the way you find that is you go to the library's website, you go to find it, and then you go down to history collection below that. And most of the things I'm going to talk about are under that category, history collection. Now, really where I start. Oh yeah, you can go through. So what's important when you're doing research is to figure out where we're located. So Hoboken wasn't always. It used to be part of Berkeley. So when we're doing research, we need to know when things became. So some important dates to consider are in 1840, Hudson County was formed from Bergen County. So if we are interested in our property back to the early 19th century, we need to go possibly to Bergen County or the state archives. Hoboken Township was formed from North Bergen, North Bergen Township in 1849, and Hoboken Township became Hoboken City. Now, there's a link right here, which I would normally show you. It's this book. Okay, you can try. It's The Story of New Jersey Civil Boundaries by Snyder. You can scroll down a little bit. Yeah, the top PDF right there. Yeah. So you can all download this book. You know, the great thing about the modern world or whatever is that you can get PDFs of a lot of materials that you need. And so we're lucky because here in Hoboken, it's relatively straightforward. If you live in like Hunterdon County or whatever, these things are a little bit more complicated. Can I just use this computer real quick?
Yeah.
So the easiest thing to do is to go from a known to an unknown. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit to Hudson County here. Let's see. Cumberland County. Hunterdon County. Okay. Okay. So here's Hudson County, and this might be real super small, but here's Hudson County, and we know we're in Hoboken. So I'm going to go find Hoboken in this book. And so it says Hoboken City right here, 1855, replaced Hoboken Township. So I know I need to go find Hoboken Township. So here's Hoboken Township. The earliest date was formed from North Bergen Township. So I can then go to North Bergen Township. And I can see that was formed from Bergen Township. And backwards from there. Like I don't need to run the point. But anyway, you can download that book. It used to be that you had to go to the Department of Environmental Protection to find it, or the state bookstore. But now you can get it online. So can you go to the next slide? So it's convenient or important to figure out what you want to do with your material once you have it. And normally here I would show you an example of technology or something like that. Because it's good to collect this information and everything else, but it's also important to present it at some point. So I used to work at a community college. Students wouldn't know how to write papers and things like that. So I'd say, well, here's an example of a paper. So ideally in this situation, I would say, here's an example of chronology or something like that. Now, chronology is just things placed in temporal order. So, you know, from 0 AD to 2023. So what you're going to want to do, or what I would do prior to, because I'm just making suggestions so you can do whatever you want, is organize your stuff in chronology. So if you get a map from 1800 and you get a census from 1820, you know, store it in that way, 1800, 1820. So you're not getting yourself all mixed up when it comes to time to organize your information. All right. So the easiest thing to start with, in my opinion, is maps. Now, the reason it's easiest to start with maps is because there's a known quantity of maps. Now, in the modern age, or 21st century, or whatever, it's a little bit more complicated. In the future, if there are archaeologists or whoever doing research, it'll be harder because information is more mutable. But in the past, there were a certain number of maps created over time that we can then go back and refer to. So here's a map that I got from Google. I'm starting with Google simply because I want to know where. Again, this is kind of easier in Hoboken because Hoboken was sort of laid out in 1904 and it's kind of stayed that same shape or dimension. In some of the western counties, it's more complicated in some ways because roads get readjusted and things like that. But anyway, I want to know where we're located now. Back in time, I don't lose track of where we were originally located. So important things to look for when you're doing this information is look for block and lot information. Sometimes that will change, sometimes it will stay the same. Important roads are unlikely to be changed dramatically. And the important landmarks, or yeah, I should have said landmarks, not landscapes, are also important to help you navigate or locate yourself in space. Can you go to the next one? That's the second one. Okay, so where do we find historic maps? And by the way, I can give you all this PowerPoint presentation with all the links and everything else. So government agencies, of course, have maps, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Library of Congress, libraries, the Hoboken Public Library, we have lots of maps. New York Public Library has a lot of maps also available electronically. The Hoboken Historical Museum has maps. The schools like Rutgers and NJCU have maps, and there's a lot of internet people or collectors on the internet rather who have maps as well that are readily available online. We're going to look at one now.
Which one? Here. I got it. Okay. Which one?
Can we go to NJCU, please? So I said we were going to look at maps, but we're actually going to look at the list of maps. So NJCU has conveniently made a list of Hudson County maps that we can then refer to rather than struggle or whatever to find what maps we need. So like I said, there's a known quantity of maps. These are the maps of Hudson County during the 19th and 20th century. Or from our view, from the 18th and 19th century. Anyway, you can go back to the slides now. Okay, so here, can you go back? Can you go forward one? No, the other way. Yeah. Okay, now if you can, if you're savvy enough or whatever, you should add a north arrow to your maps so that you can get your readers or whoever's looking at your research and establish where the research project is located. I say site or property, that's what the arrow is, that's where we're located right now. If you can establish a scale, that would be helpful as well. But all of these are just suggestions. If you can't do these things, that's fine as well. People email me at the library and I will write a little report for them, but I'm not adding all this additional information simply because it takes a long time. But if you're capable of doing that, then it would elevate the level of research that you're doing. All right, so here is a cool map of Hoboken. So that it's spelled different than we would spell it. And so I initially didn't find it in the Library of Congress because I wrote quick search and stuff like that. But of course, it didn't identify it because it's spelled in an older way. But anyway, this is an old map. If you click on it, and then on this part. So it's just Hoboken's just a little teeny component of this map. So the title of the map is it's actually a map produced by George Washington's surveyor, John Hills. So there are all these Hills maps, is what they call them, anecdotally. But anyway, they're in the Library of Congress, and they're readily available online. You have a question?
That's it out of the water there?
Yeah, so it's
That explains a lot about us.
right. So there's Hoboken surrounded by salt marshes. That little dot up by the sea is where William Bayard lived, who was the originally an American patriot and not anymore. He decided to live around. But anyway, so step it back. that's where Stevens is basically located now. And then the ferry to New York right there is like where the gas station might be now, but I mean, that's all questionable, I guess. But all that stuff where there's nothing located, that's the marshes. Anyway, we can go back to the maps.
You have a pointer.
It's,
Oh, I do?
nah,
No?
it's too complicated to set up.
Okay, can you go to the next slide then?
It's just about.
He has the weights of it.
Oh.
So anyway, after you get all your maps,
Oh, yeah, you have laser pointer.
do I?
Here it is.
That's it.
The work when I just work.
Okay. All right, well, this is Sterling. I have a laser pointer. Oh, but it disappears in the anyway.
Yeah, it's got a projector blocks it.
Okay, so like I said, we're working from knowns to unknowns. So you find all the maps that you can find. You start to build a chronology that way. In 1850, this person lived here. In 1870, this person lived here. Some of the 19th century maps have ownership on them, so it'll say like, this person lived here, this building was a shop, and this was a dwelling, and stuff like that. So you start to build your chronology in that way. And then, if possible, you can get the deeds. Now, the deeds from now until 1848 are available, sorry, 1947 are available online. So the first link is Hudson County Register. And this is their search engine. So I put in deed book 4724. So if you go to book and let's see, yeah, book and page. So it's book 4724 and page 113.
You put your research and you made up the last slide. Looking page goes back exactly.
No. Well, so I don't really use book and page normally. I'll explain that in a moment. So anyway, if you go, let's see, Leslie Rice to Deborah Maxwell. That one is a deed. And then if you make that bigger. So this is what a deed looks like if you've never seen a deed. There's that other microphones. Okay. All right, so this is a deed if you've never seen a deed. Next. The next slide. But anyway, you can get everything from now until 1947 this way. If it's stuff older than this, then you have to go to if it's 19th century or earlier, you have to go to state archives. So all these repositories have retention scale, which means they hold on to things for 700 years and then it goes. So old stuff is going to be in Trento. Relatively old stuff is going to be Jersey Sleep. And then each repository also collects certain materials as well. So the library has no keys, for instance. It's functioning the register. Anyway, you can go back to the slides. I'll go to the next one.
Sharing himself.
That's me.
That's it.
Okay, so this is part of that data. It's the same data that I just showed you how to find or whatever. Now, I use a book and page number to find that. But really what you want to do is use the person's name. So it's grantor and grantee. So if I'm a grantor, the grantor is the person who has the property that then grants it to somebody else. So if you know who owns the property at some point from 1947 to today, you can go back and trace that deed by owner. So the reason I have this specific example here is because it has a lot of information inside. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you just say this person for X amount of money. That's it. In this case, it takes back a number of generations. So first it says this property is commonly known as 504th Street. Is anybody here from 509 4th Street or 508 4th Street? Okay.
But I know that back from.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever bought her house can do research for her. And anyway, so this is one of the deeds that I found. And it says the above premises are commonly known as 504, blah, 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 being the same premises originally acquired by William M. Rice and Leslie M. Rice, his wife, under deed from Vito Saustio, and with Madeline, his wife, dated February 19th, 1968, reported on February 23rd, 1968, in the Hudson County Registrar's Office, in deed book 3032, page 103. It continues. William M. Rice died July 20th, 1960. Leslie M. Rice's widow survived the lieutenant, waived by the entirety. And then it has another book in page number 4, service office. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so it tells me who used to own it in the past. Now, there are other deeds that will go through the entire ownership of the property for legal reasons. This person conveyed it to this person, blah, 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 blah. So this is like a more significant deed about the life of this person. She's good and stuff like that.
So a broken page refers to a physical book.
A physical looking page, and they're super huge. This big, this wide. And it used to be that you could go to the registrar's offices in all these counties and just go and look at all this stuff. And then, like, there's a new law because a police officer or somebody stopped or something like that. And somebody found it. So now you have to communicate with them electronically, go there, but you can't actually do research yourself. I haven't done it since that time. So I don't know how to do this point. It was always sort of a clunky process because it's the government. But anyway. So anyway, so now we have maps, now we have deeds. Now we're going to look for newspapers. Now, at the local public library, we have access to the Jersey Journal electronically. So here's a list of all the newspapers that we have available to us. Some are only microfilm, some are electronic. The Jersey Journal is available electronically. You can use it from your house. You just have to log in with your library account number. And that's what that link is for. Previously, I did some research for a lady who she just wanted to know about her property. And so this is her property right here. 277 York Street. And it's just, I noticed this in the history. So if you think about the ways people insert the newspaper, it's not always the nicest. Honest information. But anyway, you can query the Jersey Journal for specific addresses. So you can say 508 Oak Street and see what comes up. And if you tap people's names, you can query it and see what comes up. And the Jersey Journal goes from 1867 till today. So that covers a lot of terrain for it. As it gets older, it's harder to read sometimes and things like that. But we've all met now and all that, so we have to interpret it. Let's go forward. Okay. So another resource that we can use to find information is Ancestry. Now, Ancestry is only available in the library center. And these two ladies right here, the prompt was using Ancestry a week or two ago. And Ancestry is a very powerful tool, but again, it's only available in the library. And the reason is because it's a user-based model, which means that they want you to subscribe to Ancestry. The light version of Ancestry is called Heritage Quest. Ancestry works in such a way that you find information about a specific person, and then the device still queries further information and brings back more results. So that brings back information like census information, immigration information, city directories, things like that, death certificates, birth certificates, marriage certificates, and all that is super powerful information for you to contextualize or understand people who live in the house prior to it. We also have city directories in the library that you can use. You can see physical copies of them. They're kind of like newspaper, I don't know, they're kind of like pages. So there's medical lists. Normally, the Jersey City. We have them from the and those you can look at home. And here's how you find the ancestry, even though again, when you go to find it and it's under online research and homework, go to the next slide. And then it's under genealogy and ancestry. All right, here's the next one. So another powerful tool that you can use is the Historic Preservation Office. Now, the Historic Preservation Office is the holder of the National Register, the state register for the state of New Jersey. So it's a state agency, but it interacts with federal agencies and things like that. Let me show you how it works.
If you go to that first.
Yeah. So this is a list of all the state or national register listed properties in Brunswick. So if you scroll down, there's Bayo, these properties.
Go.
Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can see, can you make that slightly larger? Okay, so wherever we're located here, we will have the name of the property, its location, in our national register, state register, DOE means determination of the eligibility is DOE, and then there's the SHPO. And what that all means is that there's students written about these properties. That's all that. And if there's a national register, you can Google the name of the property, say Pickens Warehouse, 750, 766 brand, national register, nomination, and ideally a lot of information will come up about that specific property. So if you've never seen a national registry nomination, they're full of useful information, but also full of superfluous information for what you care about. So there's historic districts, for instance. There's a historic district in Hoboken, there's a few in Hoboken. But anyway, oftentimes they'll have information about entire streets or properties, and then sometimes they won't. Instead, they'll be listed as contributing properties or non-contributing properties, meaning that a property is owned. So sometimes there will be a lot of information. I'm sure that slide. Or sorry. Let me just say.
Okay, I have to control this part. Just every time you go to new one, just show this tab.
Okay. So can you see that? Okay, so the national or the state register, or the SHPO rather, has a resource called Lucy. And it's the GIS. This will load very slowly because it's big. Yeah. It's GIS. Information. You guys have ever seen this before? I don't know. What is the address here?
1301 Hudson.
Bless you.
Street,
Hudson.
Hudson Street.
Yeah, 1301 Hudson Street.
So this is going to take me to this property. And then all these little triangles mean that these are properties that have been listed or have information written about them in the state or national register. If I scroll out a little bit, so in this red line is a locally district. So here's still open. So there's lots and lots of sites, historic sites rather. So it's possible that's maybe something done based on this. But again, it could be a situation where it's listed in a national register nomination and it's just the address. So it's something like contributing, not contributing, and so on. If it's individually listed on the national register, it's not a report. But it's something to look into. Sometimes this is the best place to start because somebody's already done the research for you to determine, what's something about your property and things like that. And normally there's an architectural historian associated with that who would then look at it and say it's this style and it has this type of hardware and it's significant because of X, Y, or Z.
People have access to that research.
Oh yeah, it's a federal.
You paid for it.
Yeah, you paid. So it's the National Register is in this case national. So you paid for it in some way. So it's the National Park Service. So it's legal for all that. So that's Lucy. You can use that. And it's named after Lucy.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then here's how I organize my information. With patrons, users of the library said, hey, can you probably research my property? And I said, I can do it, you can do it, it's better. And then if I do it, I like to take control of it. So this is the way I present it. I present it chronologically, so I'll have the date, some interpretive data, and then a map, or whatever the resource might be. In this case, the example is the map. So I actually changed this to say picture and write something about your property because if you don't, it's cool. So that should have been on there, but I said that. But anyway, that's part of the takeaway here. If you're going to do all this research, you should write something just so you, when somebody talks to you, you don't say, I remember I did this research. I remember, I think my house. You can say, well, here's what I did. Here's how I did it. So that people can see what you did. And if you want, you can create a bibliography. You don't have to. When I do it for patrons, I don't create a bibliography in the way that you would high school or college or whatever. Instead, I do it like I did on that last slide, where there's a date, interpretive information, the resource. In this case, it's that map. And then under the map, I would put the bibliography. So bibliography. But anyway, you can go to the next one. Oh, you're right on this. Do you guys have any questions? Yes.
You just mentioned, writing up something in bibliography. Is there a repository for what we have right now?
So not really. I mean, if you if you went to the next step and like wanted to list your property on the National Register or something like that, then the Historic Preservation Office is the people who would take that information. But there's no, that's the only repository. I mean, the library can see locally that the repository got more information if people submitted us, so that submitted that kind of information to us. That's past year.
So no one said this was easy, but I guess it is easier because a lot of stuff is online. But thinking that, so on Monday morning, you don't get 20 people showing up at the library, what would be the procedure for getting in touch with you?
So the next slide.
1 second.
So again, this is my first time I teach other people how to do property research. So next time, sorry, but next time I'll have and I'll do it for it. But anyway, I'm here to help you. If none of this makes sense, you can email me. Or you can come and tell me why I did it the right way. And we can work on this together and research all your properties. Yes. Did you have a question?
How do we obtain a copy of this presentation?
I will give you, so you can either email me, send it to you, or you can leave me your email right now, and then I'll. Yes.
Outside of like newspaper records or usually like standard fire maps, are there any good ways to tell when the buildings are demolished and built? And then just finding out the history of the location of the property, so like newer buildings?
So newer buildings are more complicated because, there's not that documentation that there was, I guess. So there is a blind spot as far as that stuff is concerned. Not only just the city, I guess. Yeah, but I doubt they have like a long retention schedule for any of that kind of stuff because they, it's not trying to burn for city organizations to go like we have to keep moving forward. The city's more likely to have, blueprints of like the library or the city hall or things like that. Individual properties, they're probably like, that's your problem or whatever.
What about like, we went through a lot of the corner information, but outside of like city directors or citizens defines like the history of people who lived in houses, or like these.
So, no. In fact, I mean, yeah, whatever you can find in ancestry is going to be which is city director census information. And I mean, if you've never seen census information, it's actually very powerful because it will tell you who is stuff like this, how old they were in the census, or if there were a lot of students, but and in the case of Hoboken, a lot of people were in the 20th century, so this is like this guy came from Hungary in this year, this guy came from this other place, and these are the children or whatever, and these are their jobs. So anyway, the city directors and the census are pretty powerful. Some properties I'm researching right now, the problem is that they're water users, it seems. So somebody on the deed, somebody owns it, but then when somebody else is living there, and they're committing crimes basically, which is why they're in the newspaper family. So it's likely that somebody else owned it, but somebody else lived in it. And we'll see what I find, I guess. Yeah.
We were researching back on my site, and we had to go to St. Joseph's Island orphanage, and they the children that were on that were there were put as inmates.
Oh, wow.
So I think that was
Yeah, I mean,
odd word to use.
yeah, when you look, I mean, history's not pretty all the time, so it's pretty wild what you find and what people can see. Yes.
I'm a former journalist, so when you look at this information, it's really dry. And it's like pieces of the puzzle. But I was wondering, as an archaeologist and a librarian, how does all of this help you see the book and come to life? I mean, there's something magical about book opening. And when I walk down the streets, I look at the buildings and I see the different ornaments and phrases or whatever they are. And I wonder about all the people that came here before us. Is that one reason you do this work, or what is it that you like about this work? Because it is painstaking research by people like research, like I do, you do. But there's got to be some color too.
So, I present things pretty dry. I don't editorialize. I don't feel like that's my job. At least when I'm working with patrons at the library. Previously, when I did national literature nominations and stuff, I worked with an architectural historian, and he was older than me. He would say, "Well, this property, or these people are richer than the other people, so we should talk about that and stuff like that." But anyway, to answer your question, I don't know, I like to research stuff, and that's why I do it. I don't know if there's any deeper thing than that.
Thank you for doing it.
Anybody? Yes.
On that county register, like I use that a lot. And you said it goes back to like 47 or so, 1947.
Yeah, that's what the website claims.
Yeah, I think if you're going back to like more than 10, 20 years, you really need to have the book and page. And if you do have the book and page, it just seems everything's there.
Okay.
Which is fantastic because then you can read through the deeds and see who the transfer was, and it has the meets and bounds, which tells all about the locations of the property and that kind of stuff. So that's really interesting. It's when it goes past that, or to get the book and deed in the first place. So like you can usually get some of that stuff from tax records now. Kind of got the property and then showing all the back in 1600s.
Yeah, so I've used it both ways, where I find the owners, grantees, and I search the names. There's a certain amount of triangulation I need to do in that way if you can't find the books. Because there are lots of people with the same names, basically, who work coming through town at some point. You had
They spell it wrong.
right, yeah, everybody. Well, there's people's names are anglicized or changed at different points. But the lady to your right, you had a question about properties changing more recently. So the deeds might indicate that, because the property goes up in value tremendously from year to year, and that might indicate a change as far as that development is concerned, or something like that. Anyway.
Where would you find photographs? Where would you find photographs going backwards to certain time periods?
I'm glad you asked that, because I neglected to put that we have historic photos at the library, and they're available online as well through New Jersey Digital Highway, which is curated by Rutgers University. So we have the physical copies in the library, but they're also available electronically through Rutgers University. Now, the reason that we have them is because there were photo clubs in the late 19th and early 20th century. I'm getting washed out because of my grandma. Anyway, there were photo clubs in the late 19th and early 20th century, and so they would take photographs of things. And somehow those ended up in the library. Apology, was ended up in the library.
The Mission Camera Club closed in 1934, and they gave them to the library.
Okay.
They're on the bus, maybe. They did.
Okay. So anyway, so that's the reason that we have some old photographs. It just happenstance that we have them all. But if you think about the way that the camera has changed over time, it would have cost more money, it would have been more resource heavy to have a camera in the late 19th or early 20th century, more like so there's lots of photos. We have 100,000 photos in the library, but I'm sure there's huge expanses of photos that are not covered by those photographs.
Once your property, like, in the nineties was combined with other houses and the interior was gutted and reconstructed, like the units, like how do I go back? No, like, what we-
Well, you can still research and figure out how the property changed. I mean, the inside is anybody's guess. That's not subject to. That's not the subject of maps. Plain view, two-dimensional. But you can still trace the property back and see, you know, what it originally stood on your property, even if the interior has changed. Yes.
I didn't live in a house, I don't think this is too much on the road, it was a commercial property and then, some residential.
Yeah.
Is there any avenue for, research you haven't mentioned yet, that would be another way, another direction to go to find out more about, you know,
The property
I
itself.
understand renters, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's also, in addition to population censuses, there are industrial censuses. And I've never run across those on Ancestry, so that would be something. I would either have to figure out if it is on Ancestry, or I have to go to, or you have to go to Trenton to find them. But they would enumerate what the businesses were doing. So it's like the census, except it's about the industry. So it would say like employ X number of people, produce X, and so on. And it would come out, I think, similar to the census every 10 years. And then there's an agricultural census as well, which would not matter to Hoboken. But it's similar to the industrial census or the population census, where it would say this farm produced X, and this farmer had X, 10 milk cows, 5 sheep, whatever. So all these things exist. It's just a matter of aggregating them and then processing the information.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you say where to find this industrial center?
So I've never run across it on Ancestry, so it's probably in New Jersey State Archives in Trenton. And those people are very nice as well, so you can email them. I used to work across the street from there, so I used to go there a lot. But it's been a long time since I've thought about industrial censuses or agricultural censuses. Any other questions?
I was just gonna say that, I think we got started about you doing this presentation a while back. And so I may not remember the chronology, but I remember someone coming in and saying, hey, what's the oldest house in Hoboken? And they were convinced that it was Jim and Beverly's place at 206 3rd Street. And I knew it wasn't, but I didn't really know how to communicate that. It's a distinctive property, but it's not the oldest house. And so I think I gave you that address, and you created like a 20-page document, which were, you know, like you said, not a report, but like pages where all the different references were. And I think it came in like 1906 or, you know, something like that,
Yeah.
proving again, not the oldest. And Beverly, I just gave the document to Beverly, Jim's wife, she's deceased, and she was like thrilled. And apparently they had put in a lot of legwork trying to research this years ago without online sources, but it really showed the difference in, you know, what you, how deep you can go. And so my question is, how would you research the oldest extant house in Hoboken, sort of working backwards? You know, I mean, it's sort of like, who cares? But it seems like a lot of people want to know. So it's got to still be here.
So, yeah, it has to be here. I mean, William Baylor's house burned down.
Sure.
So his house is the same, the oldest house. But we would have to find the oldest map. We could try and figure out where those properties are, if they still exist. What's that?
I've never seen them talk.
Is that?
I don't think it's the oldest.
I mean,
It's old, but
1870.
Yeah, I mean,
this thing's older than 1870.
so I mean, it might be Stevens' property. It's somewhat statistically Stevens. So we'd have to get the oldest map. Everyone was. Everyone interested. Just recently, I don't know, he found an early 19th century. So that's the earliest map that I would think that we could use to try to figure out what the oldest house is.
Okay.
There's another map from the mid-19th century, from 1852 or something like that. That's another one that we could use. But at that point, we'll be starting to like gain steam, I guess you'd say. But it's still small enough that we could try and figure it out.
It might have 50 layers of stucco if it's the.
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes that's what happens in the past. On properties that I've worked in, most archaeologists and stuff like that, there'd be a 20th century house in the middle of it. There'd be an 18th century house. It would tear all of it off, like a little Dutch house. So yeah, it's possible that it still exists. Things like that. It's hard. Hoboken is easier and harder for various reasons. If you're in Somerset County, you can say there's the oldest house because it's that and then a bunch of branches or whatever. Here, I think it's a piece of brains, so it's harder. Any other questions? Well, if you do have any questions at any time, you can email me, talk to me, whatever. I have my card here as well. Probably I have it. And like I said, if you want to talk to me, search that.
That was